Hey guys, welcome to this edition of the LA Sports Hub podcast. We're back again in our third episode since relaunching the show, and we have a very special guest today. Please introduce yourself to the Sports Hub audience.
Greg Bergman, the producer of Mason in Ireland on ESPN Los Angeles.
And Greg, so we're going to start off with the Lakers.
Introduce yourself to the Sports Hub audience.
We're going to start off with the
Greg
Lakers.
Bergman, the producer of Mason in Ireland on ESPN Los Angeles.
And I want to ask you.
And Greg, so we're going to start.
And I want to ask you about D'Angelo Russell. How have you seen him step up this season at point guard now that Kobe Bryant is no longer with the team? And what does his injury mean for the Lakers as they kind of continue to play without him?
Well, to answer this part first, his impact to have been much worse for this team, but they're still finding ways to win, and it's really interesting. You're having guys to step up and go into the starting lineup like it's nothing. It doesn't change anything for their team whatsoever. What Luke Walton has brought to them, nobody has that set role. This guy's the point guard. You can have Lou Williams be the point guard. You can have Jordan Clarkson be the point guard. And is playing the position well last night. There's always Huertas is like, okay, I'll come in and I'll get 10 assists. So, it's all working out how it's supposed to with them. However, D'Angelo Russell has stepped up big. He's hitting his threes. He's finding guys open lanes with Randall and everybody else. It's great. I'm very, very impressed with what I've seen from D'Angelo Russell, and really it's because Kobe isn't there, and everybody can basically be free to do what they want.
What other Laker player has really impressed you so far outside of Randall? Maybe Julius Randle stepping up a little bit, or Nick Young being one of the bigger surprises across the league. But outside of Randall, what has impressed you?
Outside of Randall, like you said, Nick Young his defensive prowess has been great so far, which I've been very impressed with. He was a guy. Would you ever put Nick Young and defense together at any point? No, probably not. So now
probably
he is.
Not,
it's really not fun to watch. The guy that's really impressing me though is Larry Nance, and Nance fan coming into the season. Everybody else was, and they were all up on high him because he could dunking ability and he has a high energy. When I saw him in the preseason, I thought he was actually slowing the ball down and it was hurting the offense. But he's not that guy. He is definitely a huge presence on the boards.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting rebounds. He's even hitting some outside shots. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Larry Nance.
Would you say there's been a player that hasn't met your expectations, or that's just kind of been not so great?
Yeah, it's too bad because Luol Deng has been just really, really disappointing. You get a big contract. I think it was 4 for 72, something along those lines, which the way that John Ireland put it is that it's in hindsight is not that big of a deal, but for what he's bringing to this team right now, it's not enough. He's scoring. He's only getting about 20 minutes a game,
right?
Putting in 8 to 9 points a game. His defense hasn't been all that great. You're moving Brandon Ingram into his spots more so. I just haven't been impressed with Deng, and I'd like to see more from a veteran guy like that.
Bleacher Report recently ran a social media report that Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota was kind of running out of patience with how their team season has gone, and that rumor had it they were going to look for a veteran player and possibly try to get a veteran for one of their young core. And Luol Deng came up in that conversation. He's played for Thibodeau before. Do you think Deng is going to be part of some sort of blockbuster trade down the line for the Lakers to get more young talent?
I would love for that to happen. I can't really see it happening for the amount of money that he does have on him, and he signed for 4 years. I'm not sure how his contract really breaks down with options and whatnot, but if you can trade him to Minnesota, you'd have to get pieces back that would fit. And for the 4 for 72, you're asking for one of their better players. You're not going to get Karl Anthony Towns. You're not going to get Andrew Wiggins. You're not going to get Zach LaVine. Those are the types of guys you're just not going to get. So, maybe like send over Shabazz Muhammad, possibly, but I think you need the right deal to be in place. I'd love for it to happen, but I don't think so.
And what are your thoughts on Luke Walton's performance so far as a head coach?
I am completely impressed with what he's doing. So when he won his first, what was it, 1916, 1980, whatever it was, with the Warriors last year,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, you know what, you can go take whoever you want. You can take the head coach of the 76ers last year and put him in with the Warriors, and they would do the exact same thing. That was all talent. It's not. It's him. What he's doing to this team, he's got them believing. He's got them playing together. They're unselfish. There's just what he's done to even he's stressing defense. My biggest example is so Chicago. They played Chicago last Sunday and lost and got beat up by Jimmy Butler. And after the game, Luke Walton says, we can't let Jimmy Butler go off and let the two. You got to stop at least one of them. So they play him in Chicago a couple days ago and stop Jimmy Butler and all the role players and hold them to under 90 points and win without scoring 100 points. So, I mean, he's got them believing, and I mean, you're 10-11. You got to give it up to him.
How would you rate their offensive efficiency? You just mentioned how they were able to win with scoring less than 100, but in more than half of their games, a good majority of their games, they've scored 100 plus. And for the kind of players that they have, what does that say to the resiliency of these players, and maybe how a lot of folks in the media and even people on the team kind of misjudged how good they could really be?
Yeah, no, their offense it's unstoppable at this point. I mean, they're putting up points against any team. They were putting up points against San Antonio. They were putting up points against Golden State. They can score. This team is not about whether or not they can't score, because I mean, you got guys like Lou Williams that shoot from everywhere. Nick Young, when he's healthy, shoots from everywhere. And those two guys especially, get more 4-point plays than those two.
Right.
It's crazy. And they just know how to score, and everybody's playing together. It's good ball movement, everything. Their offensive efficiency has been really fun to watch. The first time I've been able to say it's fun to watch a Lakers team quite some time.
And what would you say about how their bench has performed? It's been one of the higher scoring benches in the league, and Clarkson, Williams just went off the other night. They've been on fire when their starters aren't in, sometimes even outscoring their starting lineup. Is that bench going to be what carries this team moving forward?
Absolutely. Before the season started, I had plenty of conversations with people about Clarkson needs to be in the starting lineup with D'Angelo Russell. I mean, you look at it all over the place. You see it in Portland, you see it in Washington, you see it in Golden State. Your best two guards are on the floor. Jordan Clarkson is one of the best two guards on that team. But what he's done for this bench squad it's been great to watch. With him, Ingram, Williams, Nance, and whoever else you want to throw in there, that bench squad has been crazy to watch. I've been really, really impressed and dive in that role.
And then before we transition to UCLA's win over Kentucky, just had to throw this at you. The Clippers, while obviously not the more pristine team in LA, they're the better team for right now. But historically speaking, the Lakers have them beat by a long shot. Is this a year that the Clippers actually do something in the playoffs, or are we gonna see them fall out like they have the past couple of seasons?
I mean, until they actually do it, I can't believe it at all. I mean, this team has never gotten out of the second round. I don't think they're going to get out of the second round this year either. They have all the talent in the world. I think they missed their window a couple of years ago, and I think that's it for them. And especially if they don't get out of the second round this year, you got to blow it up. The whole thing needs to be blown up. They have too much talent and too many great players on it. They could possibly even still, if that was them, I would move. Blake's playing great this year, and I think you still move him for a better piece, and then you could possibly get further in the playoffs.
And speaking of window of opportunity, UCLA took full advantage of their opportunity in Kentucky and took down the #1 team in college basketball in pretty dominating fashion. What was your take on the game, and how do you feel that this team is going to compete moving forward?
I have to believe they're going to compete moving forward. They put up 96 or 97 points against Kentucky in Kentucky. So if you can score like that, you can beat anybody in the country, especially on the road. I mean, that's a road test. That's tough to play in Rupp. People don't win in Rupp Arena. So for them to do that, it's what they can do on the offensive end. I'm still a little wary about this. Is I'm not his biggest fan. Let's put it that way. He has a lot. There's a lot of nepotism with Bryce Alford. You see that his son is out on the floor more often than he robbed. Aaron Holiday and play threes, finding open guys. That's got in the corner shooting threes with his face. Impressive win, and I probably a billion. I was a little wary about them still, but they should be number one in the country.
And what would you say specifically about Lonzo Ball? How has he really improved his draft stock moving forward?
He's a high lottery pick if he keeps playing like this. And, I mean, he's leading the country in assists. He didn't play well at all, especially in that first half. De'Aaron Fox was crossing him up. His defense looked terrible. He was turning the ball 30 minutes or so. He's like, all right, now I'm going to calm down and I'm going to play really. This kid has every single thing that you need from a point guard. And the crazy part is he has two brothers that are coming to UCLA that are going to be just as good, if not better.
So what kind of team do you feel like he would fit in the NBA right now if he were to enter the draft a little early?
Well, I could see him being a good spot in Sacramento. Darren Collison is, he's getting a little bit up there. He's not, not your pure with Boogie. That would be a great mix. So
and what would you say about I would say the hype that went into that Kentucky game went into it almost like Kentucky got beat last year. They're going to beat the Bruins this time around and sort of settle the score. But like you said, scoring that many points in Rupp Arena where people don't win, it was the most points that Calipari has allowed during his time with Kentucky. But when you talk about March Madness and how the Bruins factor into that equation, as anything can happen, we've seen that over the years. What are some of the weaknesses or potential Achilles heels that you've seen that could come back to kind of haunt them in the postseason?
Defense is a huge Achilles heel. Kentucky was going right through them. So was many other teams so far. And I think one of the biggest Achilles heel is coaching. You got to give it. It's last year UCLA didn't make the tournament on coaching. The 2 years prior to that, they went to the Sweet 16s, but I think people overrate what they did by getting to those Sweet 16s. They beat teams like Tulsa, SMU, UAB, missing one, and then got beat up by Gonzaga, and they got beat up by Florida when they finally played a real team in the Sweet 16. It was, especially against Florida 3 years ago, Steve Alford sat Kyle Anderson for 10-minute mark to the 5 or 4 minute mark. Player on the team, probably possibly on the entire floor for his son, who was a freshman in Bryce Alford. That was the nepotism I'm talking about, so I'm afraid that having Bill being the head coach and his coaching decisions of leaving his son out on the floor because it's his son, it's gonna be an issue. So I would love to see them go deep. They have every single piece that they need. Ike Anabogu, that kid is vicious down low. So, and TJ Leaf played amazing. They have every single piece that they need to go far. They just need to work a little bit more on their defensive prowess, and then they'll be fine. I worry about all.
And talking about questionable coaching, you bring that up at a good point. Let's transition that a little bit to how the Rams feel this morning after Jeff Fisher gets a contract extension for 2 years with the team option. What are your thoughts on Fisher coming back in that kind of a way, and what do you think he was really worth that kind of extension?
I don't believe he's the right coach for the Rams. He was going to get that extension no matter what. It seemed like that extension was done weeks and weeks ago, and they just announced it today. Interesting timing to announce it today after you just had possibly one of the worst weeks you could have possibly had by having a fight with with the best player in LA Rams history, and Eric Dickerson, and not knowing who the running backs are for the Patriots. And in a game where you're 4-7, you're about to play the Patriots in, you're probably going to get beat up a little bit. It was interesting timing to put it out right then. I think he was going to be there no matter what. I don't think he was ever going to be fired, but they can still go look for another coach. I mean, just because you get an extension, that doesn't mean that you're going to be the head coach next year. The head coach next year, and I think he saved it himself by not playing Goff until 2 weeks ago.
And what have you seen from Goff that has impressed you, or maybe not impressed you so far in the games he's played?
I mean, in the pro game, you can't really see much from him because he's not being in the type of offense that he's used to at Cal.
Right.
When he was at Cal, he didn't really all impress me that much. He had great receivers and he put the ball in them, but I didn't really see him having that great of a pocket awareness. And he's shown that in the preseason. He didn't have great pocket awareness, and even in his last couple of games. I mean, it's hard to judge him by this team because the offensive coordinator, Rob Boras, is putting him in the same positions that they put Case Keenum in, the same scheme. So it's really hard to judge him on that. Hopefully, when we have a full year of him next year, we can get a better understanding of him, but we'll have to see.
And receiver Tavon Austin also got a big chunk of money from the Rams. Have you seen a lot of improvement from him, or do you think that he was worth the value that the team thought that he was worth on the table?
No, he's not worth any of the money that he got, and this just shows you what the Rams brass is thinking at the moment. They have an idea of who they want their stars to be, and they're going to pay them accordingly. And they just don't seem to be the right guys. I mean, they're making the decisions to move up to get Goff was an interesting decision.
What would you say it would take then to get Jeff Fisher out of LA?
I mean, if he loses every game the rest of the way, I would hope that would be enough, because once you get the extension, doesn't mean, like I said, that you're still going to be there. But
yeah,
the rest of the way would get him out. Otherwise, I don't think there's anything. It doesn't. He has to go through next year. If they start off poorly next year, 1-3, 0-4, 1-5, whatever it is, then I think he could be fired mid-season next year. But otherwise, I think he's stuck here for another year and a half.
And I wanted to ask you too, how do you feel about the potential move by the Chargers to join the Rams in Los Angeles? The Raiders are somewhat invested in Las Vegas. Nothing's for sure yet, though. But San Diego might not be the home for the Chargers next season. How do you feel about them, joining forces with the Rams in LA?
I am by far the least bit a fan of the Chargers. I don't want them up here in LA, and I think I'm not alone in that sentiment whatsoever. But if you think about it, it's actually really smart by them. I was thinking about it this morning. If they come up here, the Rams, they were here first, but that doesn't mean that they are LA's team. You need to be winning. You need to win championships. You need to get to playoffs. You need to do really well.
Right.
If the Chargers can come up here, which nothing about them this year or the last few years has shown me that they could be, but they can come up here, change their head coach, Michael McCoy, change around, get some more playmakers, and they come in here on fire and they start off the year, who make the playoffs. Teams will go over to the Chargers side. There's more fans in the Orange County area that are more LA fans than there are Rams fans. I think the Chargers could overtake the Rams as the number one team out here, and it upsets me. But yes, I think it's a good move by them.
All right, Greg. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We'd love to have you on in the future and appreciate your insights on what's been going on.
All right. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.